Wow, what an intro. Answer's Party Line here on Chasm Radio. My name is Brad Milkey. It is a Tuesday? Yeah, April the 30th, Tuesday, 2019. We have a current temp of 36 degrees. We should see a high, according to the forecast today, of a whole 48. Yeah, rain showers and 48 degrees, cloudy skies. That wonderful opening note you heard here at the studio is Dennis Fuchs, administrator.
Good morning.
With the That's not how you say good morning.
Meow.
Administrator with the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District. We have Nate Hylla with us, Project Management Supervisor for the SWCD. Is that the proper intro for you, Nate?
That is the proper intro.
That is the proper info. Okay. And also we have Tessa Zee with us. Tessa Zee is the Conservation Planner with the Soil and Water Conservation District.
Good morning.
Hi, Tessa. Tessa, Nate, Dennis, what's happening?
Well, there's a lot of stuff happening. And we figured we'd bring Tessa with because she's a grant-funded position that's helping farmers in the Sauk watershed with conservation planning. And I figured we better get her out here to share some of this information with our listeners and let her share some of the things she's been working on and let our farmers know that she's available to assist them. So, Tessa, tell us what you've been up to.
Yeah, last time I was here was in the fall, so we wanted to provide a little bit of an update. Conservation planning has been going really well in the Sauk watershed district area, and that's my area of specialty. And so I've been doing a lot of grazing plans lately, which basically entails going out and taking inventory of animal numbers and current systems, fencing, watering, things like that, and seeing how they want to improve the system. I've been doing a lot of that. You have to look at soils, forage suitability, and things like that to make sure that you're producing enough forage to graze those animals. So that's been really good. Also, a lot of cover crop plans. I think interest in cover crops with our producers has been high recently. And I've been making different species mixes and such, and working with our cost share programs as well as Sauk River Watershed District's cover crop program. And that's been, I think, very beneficial. I think in general, all of these conservation practices have been helping landowners improve their soil health, improve the productivity of their system overall, and it's been pretty great. Anything you guys want to add?
I do. You said interesting cover crops. Why are they interesting?
Interesting cover crops. Well, they just have so many benefits, and depending on what the producer's goals are, or what what they've played with or experimented with in the past. There's a lot of different ways that you can reach those goals. A lot of different mixes and things like that. So I think it's just figuring out what works for each producer, and so I find it interesting because making those mixes is pretty fun.
So, go ahead.
One of the areas that Tessa works in, as she mentioned, was the Sauk, and the Sauk River Watershed District has been a major partner of ours. And one of the benefits to working with Sauk River is they have some funding available that Tessa was talking about for cover crops. And right now the payments are $50, $65, and $70 an acre for cover crops. And that's a one species mix payment of $50 an acre, two species at $65, and then if you're willing to try a multi-species at $70. So it's a really good incentive right now to install cover crops, and it's for a 3-year period, and you can rotate those acres. So depending on what you're planting, if you've got corn here 1 year and the next year you've got something else, you can move those around, kind of looking at the benefit, and it's really truly an incentive to get you to try it. Is this working to improve our soil health? Is it working to reduce erosion? All of those factors, play into this program. So Scott Henderson, or Eeyore, as he calls himself up at the Watershed District, we've been working with them. They've been a great partner, and they've got some funding now. The technical assistance has still gotten through this office, and likely you'll be working with Tessa.
Okay. Is there any, I suppose it's too early to figure out what is the best as far as options when it comes to cover crops? What's the best results from what you choose or what's chosen?
It kind of depends on how you want to terminate in the spring. There's a lot of people that want it to overwinter and have the potential to get some of that growth then in the spring. But we've been seeing a lot of cereal rye working well, oats, tillage radish, clovers are always good.
Talking a lot of varieties here, a lot of different types of cover crops.
Yeah, there's Dozens.
So then how do you, with so much to choose from, then how do you know what works the best?
I think it's just working with that producer, and we have some resources that can, some mixes that have worked in the past with different, some of their neighbors perhaps, or, people talk. So
right.
What works for some people may not work for others, but it's just seeing what works for you, and we'll work with you to develop that. So
has it come to the point where they have figured out that this will enhance this, or this crop will enhance that crop?
Definitely some species have different benefits, whether that would be a soil builder, increasing organic matter, reducing compaction, things like that. Definitely there's parts that shine of each, but it's just once again seeing what goals that specific producer has for what they would want to do. But
so they should contact you at this point.
I would, yes. I think if they're in the SOC, I would be more than happy to work with them. So yes.
Yes, if you're in the SOC watershed and you're interested in working with Tessa and developing a conservation plan for your farm, give our office a call, 251-7800, extension 3. And the SOC watershed goes all the way up to Lake Osakis, down to St. Cloud. It's a big area, and if you're not sure, go ahead and give us a call anyway, and we'll help you and identify the appropriate agency or office that should be working with you. So don't be afraid to give us a holler. We certainly can help. As far as cover crops, we have some producers that, $50 an acre. That sounds pretty awesome. But this means you have to, leave the crops, the cover crop out there in the fall. You can't moldboard plow it, and there's certain restrictions, so you just can't throw the cover crop out there and then do what you normally do. You have to make some management modifications to how you manage your field. So those are some of the things that Tessa visits with each producer. We want to make sure that these plans are developed with the producer in mind. We present some soil health ideas, and then we see how this fits your operation, and then we work with you in implementing those plans. And as Nate said, there's funds available through our partner agencies like the Sauk River Watershed District. EQIP is they got a continuous sign up, and they score and rank at different time periods where you actually get funded. The folks for this year have already been identified, but if you're interested in signing up for that, that's another program that you can sign up. And we're working locally to develop our own cost share program, which we're still putting the wheels on the wagon, but we hope to have that sometime later this year. And if you're interested in these types of programs, let us know. Even if we don't have the funding right now, we can design programs to help address your conservation needs out on landscapes. So don't be afraid to talk to us and visit with us. I know I run across a few of my friends out there, one or two I have, at the local watering holes, and it's nice to visit and gather some ideas from you. So that's a great opportunity. So, is it break time yet? Or
40 seconds.
Oh, gosh. Well, when we come back from break, I'm just going to give everybody an update at where we're at with our tree sales and the tree pickup, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the emerald ash borer that's killing our ash trees here and has been identified in Sauk Center. So when we come back, we'll touch that and the tree pickup and some of the trees that we sell through our SWCD.
A little different location for the tree pickup?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
We can talk about that.
We'll talk about that when we get back. We've got some news coming up here, some weather, some brownfield market information here on Chasm Radio. It's Answer's Party Line. Visiting with the representatives from the Soil and Water Conservation District here on Chasm Radio. 9:30, it's news time, Chasm Radio. More Answer's Party Line this morning here on Chasm Radio, visiting with our guests from the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District. We've got Nate Hylla. Let me try that again, Nate. Nate Hylla, Dennis Fuchs, and Tessa Zee with us joining us. Let's talk about some tree pickup stuff, Dennis.
Yeah. For those folks out there that ordered some trees through the Stearns County Soil Water Conservation District, we have tree pickup scheduled for this week, Friday. And it's going to be at the Stearns County Public Works Building in Wade Park, actually on 28th Avenue. That's the road that runs north and south by Fleet Farm. And that's a new location. We have been out at the Albany MnDOT building, but now we have moved to Wade Park. It's the Stearns County Public Works building. Shed number 5. We'll have some signs up along the road to help you find the place for pickup. And then I also want to let landowners know, property owners, that we do have some trees left. We have about 60 bundles. A bundle is 25 trees. These are bare root trees. So these are for mass plantings where you want to do wildlife cover and or other major planting of trees. And this is quite a list yet of trees that we have available. So if you're thinking that, doggone it, I never got my tree order in, sure would have been nice to, God, when is that tree pickup? Well, the tree pickup is this week, but we'll take sales right up until Friday. And those species that are still available include black cherry, hackberry, common lilac, red maple, sugar maple, bur oak, and red oak. And some of those are excellent replacements for ash, including red oak, bur oak. The maples, red and sugar, and even hackberry is a good replacement for ash trees that may have been impacted by emerald ash borer. I'll talk about that a little bit here, but first I just want to remind you that's this week, Friday, May 3rd, Stearns County Public Works Building, and it's going to start early in the morning until later in the evening, about 7 o'clock I think is the closing time. And we only do one day for tree pickup, and that's Friday. And if you can't make it, make sure you get somebody else there because we need to get the trees out of the County Works building on time. So make sure you schedule that for Friday to get your trees. And if you do need any of those trees that I mentioned, the black cherry, hackberry, common lilac, red maple, sugar maple, bur oak, or red oak, you can order those online. And we do take payment online, so you can get those ordered and pick them up on Friday. So
from when to when on Friday?
Friday, I think it's from 7 to 7.
Okay.
Approximately. So you can get there early or get there a little bit later and get them picked up. And then I did mention emerald ash borer. We do have that creature in the county now. Last time, or the closest it was to the Stearns County was Clearwater in Sherburne County, in Wright County, right on the line there. And now it is in Sauk Center. And they're going to be having a special invited open house concerning emerald ash borer. This is sponsored by the Minnesota Department of Ag. And that'll be on Thursday, May 9th. And those who attend the open house will have an opportunity to learn more about EAB, emerald ash borer, and local options to deal with the insect and hear how residents can limit the spread of the bug. Experts from the Minnesota Department of Ag and other partners will be there to help answer questions. And that'll be Thursday, May 9th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Sauk Center City Council Chambers. And that's 320 Oak Street South, Sauk Center. The public will also have an opportunity to provide input on the proposal to add Stearns County to the state formal quarantine. An emergency quarantine was placed on the area when an emerald ash borer was discovered. The Minnesota Department of Ag will take comments on the proposed formal quarantine through May 17th and proposes to adopt the quarantine on May 30th. The quarantine will limit the amount of ash trees and limbs and hardwood firewood out of the county. And you can find this information on the Minnesota Department of Ag website. Or you can give Kimberly Teal and Kramers a call. Also, they got her fax number here, not her phone number. But she's with the Minnesota Department of Ag and will probably be at the open house on Thursday, May 9th, at the Sauk Center City Hall, City Council Chambers, 6 to 8 p.m. So we just had a meeting this morning at the SWCD. We're trying to figure out how we can assist, and Sherburne County SWCD has been very proactive with providing additional assistance to landowners that have been impacted. This morning we discussed working with our cities and the Stearns County Parks Department to do an inventory to identify where we do have ash trees. And there's also, and maybe you want to talk a little bit about that, Nate, the woodpecker activity. What is it's
woodpecker activity? You know, when you see woodpeckers, they're typically trying to get bugs. And you know, emerald ash borer is a larva on the inside of the bark. I'm not a big tree guy, so I don't understand completely the EAB yet. The people who are working on the trees today, there are experts in the trees. But when you see woodpeckers, they're typically trying to get bugs. So again, that's a good indication that the tree is unhealthy or there's something going on with the tree. So Sherburne County's been looking at doing a woodpecker survey or going around looking at where these woodpeckers are impacting trees. and then doing a little further investigation as to why they're working on those trees. So,
As an indicator.
as an indicator.
As an indicator. Not as far as spreading the...
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Correct. And the biggest thing, again, as Dennis mentioned, is the moving of firewood. I just hauled some wood from my mom's over by St. Wendell to my place in Avon this weekend. I had a trailer full of pine. But I think moving, wood is something we take for granted, but that's one of the ways we can reduce the spread of the emerald ash borer is by not moving that firewood. I'll just go up north and cut down all my trees up there and bring them back here, But you got to remember that... that's probably one of the ways that thing transports, very easily is through the removal of firewood and moving of that.
But we've been providing this education for years now, but it continues to spread. It's not helping.
It does, and it's like the aquatic invasive species within the lakes. It's a similar problem, where you've got Eurasian water milfoil, or you've got, other invasive species where there's been a huge education effort from the DNR to talk to boaters and people that use the lakes, but we still see those lakes, on that infested waters list. And this is no different. It's just on land, So I think keeping firewood where it's at within the county, I think will help limit the spread. We got to help control it at its source. So Sauk Center, now we've got that issue there. So
one of the myths out there is we can't do anything about EAB anyway. We might as well just let it spread. Well, that's not true. Emerald ash borer is a devastating pest. Our choices now for ash trees near an outbreak are either treat or remove. Slowing the actual spread of EAB may mean an economic viability for cities that are affected. If nothing is done to slow the spread, EAB can kill all area ash trees in a very short time. Slowing the spread means the city can spend $1 million a year on ash tree removal for 8 years instead of spending $8 million in 1 year for all dead trees. Spreading the cost over many years is easier on a city's budget and that city's taxpayers. Another reason is to buy time is to let science catch up. Detection methods are improving and more is being learned about EAB weaknesses. Additional research is needed, but it takes time. While it's unlikely there will be a silver bullet, if scientists can find enough weaknesses in EAB, we might be able to save ash tree species in the U.S. And the other myth that the Minnesota Department of Ag talked about is EAB has no impact on human health. It just kills trees. Emerald ash borer killed trees dry out quickly and become a hazard tree in less time than after a normal tree death. Hazard trees are trees that can be dangerous because of the possibility of them falling over or large branches breaking off with the potential to cause personal injury to people. In addition, a recent study by U.S. Forest Service found that the decrease in tree numbers due to EAB in Detroit, Michigan area, where EAB started, caused an increase in human mortality related to cardiovascular and respiratory systems. And it could be because the trees actually help clean the air and take the air pollution and purify it. Mm-hmm. So this is a big thing, and we're very disappointed to see that emerald ash borer has moved from the Detroit, and then it was in Minneapolis, in the metro area, now up here at Clearwater, now in Sauk Center. So it is making some tracks and making them quickly across the state.
Are there different variations of ash trees, or is it ash trees and ash tree?
I don't know for sure if this thing differentiates. I think it likes ash trees, be it the black or green ash. Okay. And I think it just takes them out.
Okay.
So there's that meeting coming up. If you can attend that, that'd be great. The quarantine is just a way to slow the spread. And these ash borers that are winged insects, and the larvae is what burrows below the bark and interferes with the ability of the tree to transmit nutrients from the leaves to the roots and roots to the leaves. And that's what kills the ash tree. So good opportunity to learn more. And we'd like to hear, too, from our listeners. We'll have some staff out at the meeting at the open house to learn more and what you'd like to see the SWCD do to help our private landowners here in Stearns County.
Are there predators of the ash borer? What eats the ash borer?
Those woodpeckers.
Those woodpeckers.
Yeah, those damn I guess those are good woodpeckers.
So we're gonna have to bring in. You're gonna have to bring in those dang woodpeckers. Is that what you're saying?
Release the woodpeckers.
Release. But seriously, that is something that I don't know if it's been realistically thought of, but has that kind of thought been introduced as far as?
I don't know for sure if it has. I think they're looking at
Probably unrealistic, but
right, and there might be other natural predators to that insect that they're examining and trying to pursue. Plus, probably insecticide options. There are insecticide options to treat trees. It's fairly expensive, but it's another. I mean, if you have a very high value tree that's right in front of a very prominent public space, you'd probably want to spray it. You know, some of the ash trees more distant and less visible, those will probably be removed and then planted with a different species. And when we had the Dutch elm outbreak back 20, 30 years ago, we kind of replaced a lot of those trees with ash because they were a very durable tree. We didn't know of any pests at the time that could eat them, knock them down. And now we're kind of in the same boat. So as you look at your timber stand, your forest stand, it's good to keep that as diverse as possible. And in case you have a insect that comes in or a disease, it doesn't wipe out all of that one species that is susceptible.
Okay.
Dennis and I were talking at break on, I was thinking about ordering some red oak trees for some land by St. Martin. Well, you got to look at, like Dennis said, diversifying those trees so you're not losing all those trees. I just want to switch gears here if I can, Brad, and talk a little bit about forestry in Stearns County and the fact that we do have some other programs out there that are geared towards protection efforts in Stearns County. And one being there's a Sauk River program that we're partnership with the Sauk River Watershed District, Minnesota Land Trust, the Nature Conservancy, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, to name a few, the DNR. It gives landowners an opportunity to look at their entire property. So you look at a whole farm planning approach. So with Tessa, her and I were visiting before we walked in here, and the fact that, let's say you own 160 acres. 100 of that might be great productive farmland, but you might have 60 acres that maybe has a woods on it, or maybe has the Sauk River runs through the lowland, runs through the bottom. There's actually a protection effort right now in the Sauk. There's a Sauk River restoration program, easement and habitat restoration program. They will pay landowners to permanently protect that property forever. So if you've got sensitive areas out there in the Sauk that Tessa's working with you to keep the farmland productive, you also can work with our office to protect the stuff that's sensitive. Maybe there's sandy soils, or maybe there's areas that you want your grandkids to continue to be able to have an opportunity to hunt and enjoy the land. And hopefully you have diversified forestry resources there, which include not all ash trees, that there's other things there. But those are the types of activities that our office can help with. We can look at, what type of trees to plant, and then also you can work with Tessa as to what cover crop should I be putting in. And these have economic benefits as well as soil benefits as well as water benefits. After all, we are the Stearns County Soil and Water Conservation District, but we're getting into the arena of forestry, protecting our water by means of protecting our forests. So there's an opportunity to protect the land forever. You'd put it in a permanent easement. And again, not everything has to be, just so your listeners know, not everything has to be done now. We can come up, like Tessa, with an overall plan for things to do over the next 15 to 20 years. Maybe your grandkids, maybe somebody taking over the land that you want to continue that legacy.
Nate, don't you have a landowner over by Holdingford that looks at doing something every year?
Yes. And one of the great things that I love about my job is that I get to meet. I'm the project management supervisor. I supervise the management of the projects. How's that for
That's very nice.
Flip around?
That's good.
But being from Stearns County and being a native, I love, as Dennis, Dennis is a native as well, getting to meet and talk to the landowners that I grew up with. Having a guy come into the office, and his goal by Holdingford is to do something every year. So he earmarks a certain amount of his income to do something for conservation every year. And we talk a little bit about what I'm going to do this year. And I think that he's done an erosion control and taking care of gullies. He's enrolled in CRP. And his reason was, I'm enrolling in CRP because I want to see the wildlife. So he did that. He put in a stacking slab for a poultry facility so his manure isn't stockpiled and running into the nearest ditch. The next year, he had another resource on another farm he wanted to take care of. So if I were to take a poster landowner to promote, this would be it. It's just they've done a great job, and they've had little funding out of their pocket that they've used for this. So it's an opportunity to leverage programs that we have, and it makes my job enjoyable working with folks like that are motivated. But again, over the long term, not everything has to be done year one. We can look at this over 10, 15, 20 years, depending on who's going to take that land over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of the time when I first do that first initial site visit, we talk about future goals, 10, 20 years out. What do you want to see happen, and what do you want to, either improve productivity-wise, soil-wise, whatever. But I like looking at those long-term goals because in the end of the day, it's their plan. It's not my plan. It's what they want to have happen. So if that means making those plans and making thoughts for what's going to happen way down the line, I think that's great because it encourages conservation, not just right now, but for a long time. So
when you call the office at 320-251-7800 extension 3, normally you get me, and I kind of distribute the projects accordingly. But the biggest question I ask landowners is, what's going to happen with your land? What is your vision? What is your legacy that you want to leave? And it doesn't matter if you're a farm operator or if you're interested in habitat. So we talk and we try to balance those efforts out. So that's a question I ask everybody is, what do you want to see for your land? And again, with working with Tessa and the ag side of things, I think we have a good balance of how we can help landowners in Stearns County.
Cool. That's thanks a lot, Nate and Tessa. That was awesome. I do want to let the listeners know, if you're out planting this spring, the County Highway Department in Stearns County just issued a notice that they want to remind farmers that planting crops within the road right-of-way is illegal. State law prohibits plowing, tilling, and or planting in the right-of-way, driving lanes, shoulders, ditches, and sight corners at intersections. And they want to prevent any situation where crops block drivers' vision and create erosion concerns or other safety issues. I know we've had some major storm events early in the year, and where we observed the greatest erosion rates were adjacent to township roads where the road ditch was plowed up into the shoulder. And when we received these 1,000-year storm event, over 5 inches of rain in an hour, it just eroded that soil like crazy where there was no grass along the ditch. So please keep that in mind this spring. You will be planting sometime this spring. It's just a little slow this year, but keep that in mind when you're out there to make sure you stay out of the road right away for the reasons I just mentioned about visibility and erosion concerns.
Okay. The annual report is out.
Yeah, we actually, if you visit our website, we do have our 2018 annual report. We did present that to the county commissioners. That was Tuesday, April 9th. So we actually, you can also visit the Stearns County Commissioner website and see the webcast of the presentation that Chuck Upoff and I gave to the county commissioners. And they were very welcomed the report, and were very supportive of the activities that we have accomplished in this past year. And we're going to be doing a tour for some of the elected officials, some of the policymakers coming up here in June. I think it's June 14th, that Friday. And that's an invite-only type of deal because we don't always get our elected officials out to see the types of practices we're doing. So that's to increase awareness to our elected officials, and then also to celebrate our 70th anniversary. Meow, meow, meow.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, right?
Who's going to bake the cake?
We haven't decided yet.
Okay.
Probably Cold Spring Bakery, maybe.
There you go.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They're going to hold that to you now.
Well, I'm more concerned about who's got the beer.
Oh, there you go. Yes, of course.
But yeah, so there's a lot of great things happening. As Nate and Tessa said, if you got any questions or would like assistance with conservation planning, give our office a call, 251-7800. Extension 3. And if you aren't sure for sure if, do I need conservation planning, give us a call. We'll come on out and take a look at your land and help you through the process.
So there's plenty of time to think about it, and like you said, make a decision down the line if you want.
Yeah, exactly. We know these are tough times for our dairy farmers and other farmers in the county, and we don't want to be pushy. We just want to be here to lend a helping hand if needed. And as Nate said, that farmer he was talking about that kind of plan to do things annually every year, very little came out of the landowner pocket. So we leverage state and federal funds and our partners' funds to help cover the cost of implementing these conservation practices. And in the long run, they save you money because you got improved soil health, maintaining higher yields with no more inputs.
Will those funds be in place for a while?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's another thing I brought up. Talk to us about your concerns. If there's a bunch of people that come in from a certain area, we're going to put together a grant application to help pay for those practices that you come to us with and would like assistance with.
Wonderful. Give us that phone number once more, Dennis.
251-7800, extension 3. Of course, that's area code 320. Meow.
Dennis Fuchs, Nate Hylla, and Tessa Zee, Soil and Water Conservation District, Stearns County. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It is 10 o'clock. We've got news coming up on Chasm Radio.